Thanks, Chris. Now, in our 7th season, it's the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball Game of the Week. Tonight, the Phillies, with Curt Schilling on the mound, take on the Chicago Cubs and .336 hitter Mark Grace. It's the ESPN Sunday Night Game of the Week.
Take me out to the ball game.
Could we possibly be but Wrigley Field, Chicago. Tonight, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball takes you to Harry Carey's ballpark. We'll be also talking to Harry later on. Now, they're getting a little bit excited here in Chicago. The Cardinals lost today. The Astros lost. And if the Cubs win tonight, they'll go to St. Louis on Tuesday. Only 4 games out in the Central, still with a shot. Hello, everyone. I'm John Miller along with Joe Morgan, and we're feeling good because we're at Wrigley Field. What better place is there to watch a ball game? And we're getting a chance tonight to watch Ryne Sandberg. He's only 2 home runs behind my partner, Joe Morgan, the all-time record holder for home runs by second baseman. Rhino, who didn't play for a year and a half, has come back real strong, Joe.
Well, he's had a very good year power-wise. He has 24 home runs, but he's also driven in 87 runs. I think that's the important point. The only thing he's lacking a little bit, his average is down a little bit. He's hitting .234, but you can expect that after a year and a half layoff.
He actually, with 87 RBIs, has a chance to have one of his top RBI years ever. Now, he'll be facing one of the top right-handers in the National League. Yes, Curt Schilling not only is back, but he's healthy, and he says he's throwing better than he was when he was at the top of his game. And Schilling tonight will try and be the spoiler for the Cubs, Joe.
Well, he's throwing very well, John. The important thing is he has his live fastball back. Throws a cutter and he sinks it a little bit. But the important thing for me is he has 6 complete games, and he missed almost 2 months of the season. He's tied with John Smoltz for the league lead.
All right, so we'll see Schilling and Sandberg, Mark Grace, Brian McRae. Kevin Foster goes for the Cubs. The ESPN Sunday Night Baseball Game of the Week is brought to you by the more than 1,425 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. Coming up, it's the Cubs with Ryne Sandberg and Mark Grace taking on the Phillies on the ESPN Sunday Night Game of the Week. There's the skyline of downtown Chicago from Wrigley Field on the north side, and it's a rather nice evening for a ball game, although it's supposed to get much cooler later on. Jim Fregosi not had a whole lot to work with the Phillies this year. Phillies with the worst record in the National League. But right now, with a chance to play the role of spoiler, here's the lineup. Mickey Morandini, the veteran second baseman, leads off. Kevin Stocker at shortstop. Greg Jeffries, who's been hot lately in left field, hit .359 in the last 16 games. Benito Santiago, having his best year, 26 home runs, is the catcher. Then a lot of young guys. John Zuber at first base. Ruben Amaro Jr., although he's been around a while, is in right field. Wendell McGee Jr. is in center field. Kevin Sefcik at third base. And on the mound, the veteran right-hander Curt Schilling, who's reemerged as one of the top pitchers in the National League. Facing the Phillies tonight, right-hander Kevin Foster. He's a Chicago area native, 7-3 for the year. And this is our first look at Foster, but we understand he throws pretty well.
Well, he throws well, and when he has a live fastball, he's pretty good. In fact, they sent him to the minor leagues because his fastball had dropped down into the low 80s, and he needs to be in the high 80s to be successful. Has a very good changeup and a curveball. And actually, he's 5-0 here at Wrigley Field, even though he gives up a lot of home runs. Let's take a look at the defense. Up the middle is where you want to be strong, and they are strong. Ryne Sandberg, Gold Glove winner. Sanchez, very good shortstop, and Brian McRae has won a Gold Glove in center field. So they're very capable up the middle for the Cubs, and that's one of the reasons that they're staying in the race.
So Mickey Morandini ready to stand in. Jim Riggleman, the Cubs manager, said before the game that this is quite probably, up till now, the most important game of the year for the Cubs. They have to win. Here's the first pitch, a strike, and there's Jim Riggleman. And he's got his Cubs, despite everything, despite losing Sammy Sosa. Here's a high foul back out of play. Strike 2 to Morandini. Got the Cubs with a chance now with a win tonight to be able to go to St. Louis, where they play a 3-game series beginning Tuesday, to be only 4 games back of the Cardinals. And after everything they've been through and the struggles they've been through, how could you ask for more than that at this time? And the fastball is, that doesn't mean anybody's predicting that they'll go in there and sweep the Cardinals, but at least they would have that opportunity head-to-head.
Well, that's all you can ask for when you've been a team that struggled all year, to have an opportunity down the stretch to get into the playoffs.
2-2 now to Morandini. Mickey Morandini, veteran, just re-signed to a new contract. Veteran player, can steal a base. Pretty good second baseman. Brian McRae, a real high fly ball into center. And there is one man gone. Well, the Cubs will be going to St. Louis for 3. And they've split their games with the Cardinals. And then they have 8 games left against the Pittsburgh Pirates, including 4 here at Wrigley Field, and then 3 at Cincinnati. So you would figure if they could actually go into St. Louis and do some damage, I mean, go in there and sweep the Cardinals. Well, we're ahead of ourselves, because right
yes,
now,
you are.
I mean, they've got to win this ball game tonight.
Sweeping the Cardinals in St. Louis is no easy task either.
Here is Kevin Stocker. Center field, McRae going back. He's going way back. And he makes the catch.
Brian McRae, one of the better center fielders in the National League, but I think he was a little fooled on that ball because he did not break back as quickly as he normally does. He started tracking it a little late. I don't think he felt like Stocker had hit the ball as well as he did, but Stocker drives it well in the straightaway center field. And right away, you see McRae not going back at full speed. He wasn't. Then he realized that he had hit the ball much better, but good center fielders can make up for a little mistake. He just tracks it down.
Now here is Greg Jeffries. Jeffries, a switch hitter, batting left-handed, hitting .288, 7 homers, 45 batted in. He, like most of the Phillies, with injury problems this year.
And the problem is, John, he was the guy that was supposed to lead them. He was supposed to be the big RBI man when they signed him as a free agent to come over. He was supposed to be their savior. And, of course, as you mentioned, he's had injuries. But when Greg Jeffries has played, he has always hit well.
And down he goes. So, an impressive first inning for Foster. 3 up and 3 down. Now we'll get a look at Curt Schilling against the Cubs when we get back. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball from Chicago. Phillies nothing. Cubs coming up now against Curt Schilling. Here's Jim Riggleman and his Cubs ball club. Not a typical Wrigley Field home run, big run scoring type ball club. They've had to make do with very few runs and pitching, defense. Here's Brian McRae leading off in center field. Ozzie Timmons in right field. Mark Grace at first base. And Grace has had the hot hand here down the stretch. Luis Gonzalez in left field hitting cleanup. Dick Magadan, the veteran, at third base. Ryan Sandberg is at second base, 87 RBIs. Tyler Houston, the former Atlanta Brave, the catcher. Ray Sanchez at short, and Kevin Foster, who came up as a third baseman originally when he signed with Montreal, is the pitcher. On the mound for the Philadelphia Phillies, right-hander Curt Schilling, World Series hero for the Phillies back in '93 when he shut out the hot-hitting Toronto Blue Jays in Game 5.
Well, Curt Schilling, you see there are 151 strikeouts and 158 innings. That tells you he's throwing hard again.
Brian McRae, strike one.
And Schilling is a guy that will really use his fastball a lot, especially if he is throwing well. He doesn't get ahead of you and then try to trick you with a lot of trick pitches. He will just come after you.
1 ball, 1 strike to McRae. 279 batting average, 362 on base average. McRae has scored 106 runs. Leads the Cubs with 35 steals. Now there's that fastball you're talking about.
And John, it's interesting too that McRae is a leadoff hitter that's doing well. He scored 106 runs, but he does not like to hit leadoff. He figures that he should be hitting someplace else in order. He doesn't feel that he has the patience to hit leadoff.
That's a foul out of play. Well, he has 68 walks this year, and that's a lot for him.
Right. But he of course, he's better now than he was before as a leadoff hitter, but he just does not think that that's a spot that he would like to hit in, but he said they don't really have anyone else here, so that's his job. I'm sure he'd like to hit second.
And down he goes. Look at that, 95 miles an hour with that fastball. So there's one man gone.
And let's take a look at the Phillies defensively. I think up the middle they are okay, Stocker and Morandini, but their key is Santiago. And of the last 30 base runners that have attempted a steal on him, he's gotten 15. I mean, he has been throwing very well. He's been playing very well. He leads them offensively. He's been their most valuable player.
Benito Santiago. And the last couple of years has been kind of the guy that seemed like nobody wanted. Ended up with Cincinnati last year. They didn't re-sign him. He was out there for anybody to get, and the Phillies got him for a real bargain price. Here's Ozzie Timmons, and he has hit well enough lately that Riggleman is talking about having him out there in right field most of the time until the end of the year. Of course, that's been a big hole in their lineup, losing Sammy Sosa, who already had 40 home runs when he got hurt. And 1 ball and 2 strikes now.
No, I was just saying he also had 100 RBIs. He got hit with a pitch to drive in his 100th run of the season. That drove in this 100th run.
Tough man to replace. You can't really replace him. You just hope that maybe somebody can go out there and do a passable job. And now they're going to give Timmons a look-see. He has hit well since coming back to the minor leagues over the last 60 at-bats or so. So the count is 2 balls and 2 strikes, 1 out, nobody on, with Mark Grace on deck. Now, Schilling, how good he is again, does not show up in his 1-loss record. Only 7 wins and 9 losses. But he's got one of the top earned run averages in the league. And when you saw his statistics there, the one that kind of jumped out at me, Joe, 158 in the 3rd innings, only 133 hits allowed.
Right.
I mean, he's just tough to hit.
And he's doing it basically with a fastball, which is one of the reasons that I feel like, you know, pitching has gone downhill a little bit. A lot of trick pitches. Then you get behind, you have to throw the fastball. Schilling comes at you, gets ahead of you with the fastball, and finishes you with one. Good fork ball right there. Good splitter.
So out number 2, Timmons is down. Now here's an update with Reese Davis.
All right, John, Network MCI takes us to Chavez Ravine. Cardinals had a 5-2 lead on the Dodgers going to the bottom of the 8th. It's 5-4 when Tim Wallach greets Eck with a single. Raul Mondesi, Eric Karros would score. 4-run score in the 8th. LA beats the Cards 6-5. They stay a half game up on the Padres. Cards 2.5 up on Houston.
All right, Reese, thank you. And a big win for the Dodgers in that great pennant race they've got going out west. And a very bad loss for the Cardinals. Well, Mark Grace, first ball swinging, is thrown out by Mickey Morandini, and that's all for Grace. And the Cubs, no score after 1. Santiago coming up. It's the Phillies and the Cubs, and guess which ballpark we're in? Yeah, that's a tough guess. The bleachers there at Wrigley Field, Chicago. John Miller, Joe Morgan with you, and Benito Santiago takes a called strike from Kevin Foster. Santiago, 26 home runs this year. That one is really belted. And there is number 27. Wow. What a shot.
That is true big fly territory right there, John. Straightaway center, about 20 rows deep.
Number 27 for Santiago, his 78th RBI. And, well, you mentioned, Joe, at the outset, Kevin Foster has a propensity for giving up the long ball, and we didn't realize how long you meant. Man.
That one was long. Look at the targets low and away. Not that bad a pitch. It's down a little bit and out over the plate. Now watch how he attacks the ball. This is Santiago really attacks it, drives it straight away center field. Look how far up that ball hits.
Now John Zuber, the Philly rookies, they got a lot of them going right now, and he fouls one out of play. 1 strike to count. Now, Joe, you mentioned, you say not that bad of a pitch, but see, I'm a bottom line man.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Terrible pitch.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right. If you're Kevin Foster, you say it was a terrible pitch.
Yeah. When they hit it like 450,000 miles like that,
It's a bad pitch. Okay, I'm going to agree with
that's my definition.
Yeah. Bad choice of words.
Oh. 0-2 to Zuber. Foster now has given up 13 home runs in 72 2/3 innings. So that's what, about one every 5 2/3 innings or so. Strike 3 called on the outside. Zuber goes down. So Foster recovers nicely.
Well, he has an excellent changeup, a curveball, and a very good fastball. That's right on the corner. Look at that beautiful pitch, knee high on the outside corner. Watch this. I mean, the catcher does not have to move his target. And that's just that second strikeout.
Now Ruben Amaro. When we were in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago, Labor Day weekend, he was the hero that night, as it was the Phillies who made an 8th inning comeback to beat the Dodgers. Just the opposite of what happened to the Dodgers today. It was they who came back today over the Cardinals. But this guy came up as a pinch hitter and almost hit a grand slam. It went right off the top of the wall at the vet. 3-run double. Proved to be the game-winning hit.
And the coaches were teasing him today. Dennis Minky is the hitting instructor. He said, when they told him he was in the lineup because Otero was in there originally, he said, well, Joe, he'll have a good first at bat because he's used to pinch hitting. He said, and then after that, he'll start thinking. There's Dennis Minky. And he said, after that, he'll start thinking, and he won't know where he is.
And Amaro has been there. Excellent pinch hitter. They're pinch hitter deluxe. 11 for 30 as a pinch hitter. 3-1 the count to him. And he's getting a lot of respect here from Foster.
His father was one of the shortstops. He and Bobby Wine shared that position in the 60s when they were going for that pennant. And lost, I guess, 11 of their last 12 or whatever that number was.
They lost 10 in a row with 12 to go. That one was hit pretty well also, but caught by Brian McRae. It's almost like Foster is trying to show McRae off for Sunday Night Baseball here. Let's just see how good he really is out there.
Well, the good part is that's the deepest part of this ballpark, so you're better off keeping him out there in center field, because this is, as Ernie Banks would say, the friendly confines of Wrigley Field. But center field is pretty deep straight away.
Here is Wendell McGee Jr. He's hitting 179. He saves his best for us, doesn't he, Joe? I mean, he had a very fine game against the Dodgers 2 weeks ago. And right away, I mean, from what I've seen, he's one of the best young prospects in the league.
But the one thing, John, is even that night, he was hitting a lot of good pitches on the first pitch, you know. He seemed like if you get him into the count, he's not as good. But here he gets the first pitch, looks like a little slider away, and he rips it to left field for a base hit.
Magadan making the leap at third base. Here is Kevin Sefcik. Since we saw the Phillies on the Labor Day weekend telecast, the outstanding prospect Scott Rowland suffered a broken arm hit by a pitch. And he's out of action, so now Sefcik is filling in at third base. Sefcik had a 3-hit game when we saw him 2 weeks ago. He's hitting .278 in 72 big league at bats. 1-0. The Phillies are leading. We're in the top of the second inning, 2 down, and Wendell McGee over at first base. Seemed to me, Joe, he ran pretty well when he was in the outfield, but he's not stolen a base at the big league level. And there's Jim Fregosi, at this point, long-suffering manager of the Phillies, since he took them to the World Series in 1993. It's just been a long list of injuries every year, and it seems every year is worse than the previous year. 2 men down. McGee at first. Kevin Foster on the mound. And that's a foul out of play. Now, of course, lately, Jim Fregosi's been in the papers in Philadelphia, along with general manager Lee Thomas, as the Phillies owner. Bill Giles came out publicly and made the comment that the two of them are going to have to work out differences, and or he might have to consider maybe firing one or both.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult situation, John, because I don't think anything is worse than a forced reconciliation. There is Lee Thomas. He's the general manager, and his nickname was White Fang, so you know he has a temper, and so does Fregosi, and they've gone at it a few times, and you know, I think it's kind of a field line. Timmons runs out of room. And John, when you talk to people, you know, in Philadelphia or some of the players, that great word, philosophical and difference. You know, they're having philosophical differences. That's the reason that they're at each other or not happy with each other. And I think it has to do with Lee Thomas bringing some young players up. He feels like Fregosi hasn't given them enough time to prove whether they belong there or not. And Fregosi says that that's part of his job, recognizing talent. And he doesn't think that some of these players were ready. And therefore, you know, they've had some confrontation with that. But truthfully, I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, that's the general manager's job to acquire the players, and the manager's job to decide if they play every day.
1-2 to Sepsic. And another foul. Well, that gives us more opportunity to talk about it.
I don't think there's any. I would bet the general managers on other teams and their managers disagree on occasion. I know Fred Clare and Lasorda disagreed several times.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that I mean, it's not unusual. I guess the unusual part is that it's become public. I think that's the unusual part.
Well, unusual that the owner comes out and basically lends credence to the whole thing by publicly saying that he's expecting Jim Fregosi and Lee Thomas on this road trip to get together and work out their differences. Sepsic fouls another one away, so we can just keep talking about this. 1 ball and 2 strikes, the count to Sepsic. Now, I asked Fregosi about it before the game, and he winked at me, smiled that little Fregosi smile, and said, "Don't believe everything you read in the papers."
I think that's been his standard answer, because he told me that when we were in Philly 2 weeks ago.
Well, I mean, truly, he's done a real good job at Philadelphia. We saw that in '93. That was not supposed to be a club to win a title, not in this era of the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
Not only won a title, but then they kind of stunned the baseball world by beating the Braves in the League Championship Series. And then the best laid plans all went awry ever since, really. The Phillies counting on players who end up missing big parts of years with injuries. Well, Sepsic finally down on strikes. And we certainly thank Kevin Sepsic for allowing us to go at length on that topic. We are 1-0.
Reese Davis with you in our ESPN studios. Orioles and Tigers, top of the first. Cal Ripken Jr. goes yard. That 3-run shot. Home run number 240 of the year for the Orioles. It tied the 61 Yankees. And then who broke the record? Not Brady, not Cal, not Bonilla, but Mark Parent. Orioles up 7-4 at that point. They would win it 16-6. They hold their wild card lead back to Wrigley.
Thank you, Reese, and we'll see the Orioles Wednesday night baseball. A big showdown coming up at Yankee Stadium. Game 2 of the 3-game series will be seen right here, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Rafael Palmeiro, 136 RBIs. Derek Jeter, one of the strong Rookie of the Year candidates. Then Juan Gonzalez, the Texas Rangers, first in the West. Alex Rodriguez, maybe, well, those are 2 of the top MVP candidates in the league. Rodriguez and the Mariners second in the West, and their last chance to put a dent into the Rangers' big lead. The Rangers lead by 6 over there in the West, but the Mariners really held their own in their just concluded road trip. They just swept the Minnesota Twins. So that's a great doubleheader on Wednesday night baseball. The Orioles are 2.5 back of the Yankees now in the American League East after being 12 games out at one point, as Luis Gonzalez takes strike 1 from Curt Schilling. And now the Orioles go to New York, and they get that chance head-to-head with the Yankees. The Orioles are also 2.5 ahead of the White Sox now in the wild card. Well, Gonzalez is quickly behind 0-2 to Schilling. And that's not unusual. Schilling will make guys look bad.
And because he throws strikes and he comes after you, and occasionally he'll get you to chase pitches out of the strike zone. You mentioned the MVP candidates. We'll get into that a little later on tonight. I'd like to get your views on the MVPs for each league. I'm sure we'll disagree, so we can discuss that.
Well, we've got to go and we've got to work out our differences now, Joe.
You're right.
It's time.
Yeah, good point.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Gonzalez. Schilling will watch Santiago make the play.
Nice play.
1 gone. Well, speaking of MVP in the American League, since we were looking there at Juan Gonzalez and Alex Rodriguez, and I liked how Rodriguez himself said, I saw the item in the paper today, that he says, how can I be the MVP when the MVP on my own ball club is Ken Griffey? And Lou Piniella kind of agreed with him on that.
Right. He said
Yeah.
our day-to-day MVP is Ken Griffey Jr. He said Rodriguez has had an outstanding year, and he has, but he said our day-to-day MVP is Ken Griffey Jr.
And Albert Bell, big numbers again. 140 RBIs. I don't even like the way I said that, Joe. Albert Bell, big numbers again. I mean, hey, Albert Bell
always puts up
is having an incredible season. A good chance to have 50 home runs again after doing it last year. Dave Magadan, the hitter, 1 ball, 1 strike as he faces Schilling. Last of the second, 1-0. The Phillies are leading.
I think the difficult thing with Albert Bell, John, is you don't hear as much MVP talk this year as you did last year. And I would hope that that had nothing to do with, you know, attitude and the other things that they talk about. I think you have to just go on merit and put your differences aside.
But,
so,
you know, even now it seems like Albert's role is enlarged in that ball club because of the trade of Baerga, the trade of Eddie Murray. I mean, they don't have quite the power up and down the lineup they had, as you discussed last week when we were in Cleveland. And for Albert to be in the middle of that lineup driving in 140 runs, I mean, what does that mean to Tomey, to Ramirez, taking a lot of the pressure off of them? Because they all have a little more important role than they might have last year when they seemed like the whole lineup had sluggers in it. 3-2 to Magadan. That's not surprising. Seemed like Magadan had been 3-2, Joe, almost every at bat of his whole career.
He takes a lot of pitches, very selective at the plate.
1-0. Schilling and the Phillies are on top. 1 out, nobody on. Ryan Sandberg is on deck. And that's a foul into the upper deck off to the left. 3-2 the count. Well, anyway, it'll be interesting to see in the American League because there are a lot of very strong candidates. And in fact, we showed Paul Merrill's picture there. As we look at Sandberg, he got 136 RBIs for a club that's made a great stretch run. And nobody even mentions that.
It's going to be difficult to choose in the American League, I believe.
Paul Merrill playing a very strong first base. Right to the second baseman, Morandini. And Magadan is retired. 2 down. And that brings up Ryan Sandberg. Now, yesterday, he moved into sole possession of second place among all second basemen for home runs as a second baseman with that shot against Mike Mims. Moved ahead of Rogers Hornsby with that one.
You know, it's interesting to me, John. Yesterday he hit 4th, and today he's hitting 6th against the right-hander. I know he doesn't have a high batting average, but he's producing runs. You would think that you'd want him up at least 5th, 4th, or 3rd, or 2nd in your batting order, you know, to drive in some more runs.
Ryan Sandberg, 2 down, nobody on. Fastball from Schilling misses outside. Well, Jim Riggleman, for whatever reason, made the decision, but Sandberg is kind of exposed now. Why should Schilling even come close to throwing him anything to hit here?
But Tyler Houston behind him and 2 out, so he's fallen behind in the count 2-0. But I think with Schilling, I think he will go after him, but some other pitchers would probably not pitch to him. And we'll see what Schilling does here because he is ahead in the count, behind the count 2-0. See, he goes after him, but you would expect someone else maybe to throw a slider or something else with Sandberg behind, but he didn't give him a pitch to hit. He hit the outside corner with a good fastball.
2-1 the count. And it's 2-2. Well, talk about going after people. And who could ever forget? Anybody who saw it could never forget. In that league championship series, the first game with the Braves and the Phillies in '93, and throwing almost all fastballs, he struck out the first 5 Braves of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, just overpowered him. It was just incredibly impressive, and he ended up getting the MVP of that championship series. Sandberg fouls it away.
Not only
onto the rooftop.
Not only is he throwing hard, he has that was a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, but he's got real good movement on his fastball. You know, he'll throw one that will cut, you know, move away from the right-handed hitter, one that will sail kind of up and in, and he just moves it around so well. But good movement is the key to his success.
There's the forkball, and Sandberg is down on strikes. 3 strikeouts for Curt Schilling. 1-0 for the Phillies after 2. We're here at Wrigley Field, the home of Harry Carey and the Cubs. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball Game of the Week is brought to you by Pep Boys. 26,000 items at the guaranteed low price. tires and service too. Everything but gas.
Harry Carey back at Wrigley Field as we go to the top of the third inning.
Holy cow.
You guys are, you can go home now. I'm going to say, good to see you all.
Our relief is here. Kevin Foster of the Cubs here in the third inning facing Kurt Schilling, and Harry Carey's with us. And Harry, is always a pleasure to have
Well,
you here.
it's good to see you, fellas.
Thanks for letting us use your booth.
Be sure it's clean when you leave. Now listen, John, I gotta talk to Joe about this. You know, I was born and raised in St. Louis, and so the only name he used to hear of the old ball players of the past being the greatest right-hand hitter ever in the history of the game was Roger Hornsby.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it when I find out that you hit more home runs than any second baseman in the history, because Hornsby was the second baseman. And not only Sandberg now is going to pass you by.
You got to remember, Hornsby played more than one position. That's why we caught him. He played a lot of different positions.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, to pass Roger Hornsby, just to be mentioned in the same breath is a thrill.
Well, that's what I've often mentioned in relation to Sandberg. I didn't realize he was so close to you until this year.
Oh, I didn't. You know, funny thing, being honest with you, I didn't either because I hadn't really thought about it.
Well, now you saw them all, Harry. I mean, who's better? Who's the best of those three?
I tell you, I told this to Shane Deuce, and I got to tell it to you.
That's right.
The greatest second baseman I've ever seen, I saw him for 10 years, was Ryan Sandberg. For covering territory, making the double play, hitting with power, hitting for average, fast, steal bases, do everything. And, of course, I didn't see as much of you as I saw of him, Joe.
But you don't have to make exceptions.
Well,
that's a fact.
That's a
the way
fact
it works.
with me.
Yeah.
And it's a tribute to Ryan Sandberg.
Right, it is.
But let me just say on behalf of my partner.
No.
I'm not going to get no.
Rhino,
I love your partner.
Rhino did a great job, but my partner's got some World Series rings, and Rhino doesn't have those.
Well, okay.
See, now that's in Joe's favor, see.
Now, listen, you know how to hurt a guy.
Mickey Morandini with a ground ball to Ryan Sandberg. Look at that, just like Harry described it, smoothly, beautifully.
Well, let me say something. Now, this makes my career complete. You know, I've played with Bench, Rose, and Perez, managed by Spark Anderson. Now I've got to work with John Miller and Harry Carey. Now my career is complete.
Well, I think that's a compliment.
Yes, it is.
Well, Harry,
I want to thank you.
The way he put it, so now just you and me, just take it from here. Yeah. His career's finished. All right.
Okay.
John Miller and Harry Carey from Wrigley Field, Chicago. Now, Harry, you going to sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game tonight?
I'm going to do it especially for you guys, and I'm going to dedicate it to you both.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And Joe, I love you. You're a tremendous ball player, great guy in the booth.
Thank you.
As is John Miller, but Ryan Sandberg was the greatest.
That has nothing to do with it. I appreciate that. I can understand that. You don't have a problem. Hey, Harry, you don't have a problem with me on that.
Okay.
In fact, I'll let you come in the booth again next time we're here.
Thank you.
No, stay here. No, we don't want you to go.
Don't leave yet.
Okay.
Don't leave. Don't leave us alone yet.
I don't want to stay too long. I mean, I know I'm imposing on you now.
No.
You know, it seemed to me that Skip Carey says that Joe was better than Ryan.
No, I think maybe Skip Carey might say somebody else is better than both of them.
You're right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But, hey, you know, you mentioned Skip Carey. You know how I feel about my son. And you know how I must feel about his son, who's my grandson, every Saturday afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Doing a great job there at Fox.
3 generations of one family doing Major League Baseball. I don't think it's ever been done before, and it may never be done again. And when people ask me my biggest thrill, it's got nothing to do with baseball. It's the fact that my son and my grandson are doing the very same thing I did, or do.
And it must run in the bloodline.
When you heard Tommy Lasorda the one day, he said, boy, you can tell who got the look in your family, referring to Chip.
Kevin Stocker with a foul over the third, and it's caught at third base by Dave Maggott, and that's the inning. 1-0 Phillies after 2.5 from Wrigley Field, Chicago. Holy cow. ESPN ESPN Sunday Night Baseball from Chicago. 1-0 Phillies. We go to the last of the third. John Miller, Joe Morgan, and Harry Carey at Wrigley Field. And the first ball swinging Tyler Houston. Mickey Morandini throws him out. There is one gone. Big ball game for the Cubs tonight. And Jim Riggleman, Harry, the manager before the game, told us that really the biggest game of the year for the Cubs. They really have to win as they head out to St. Louis for the big showdown with the Cardinals on Tuesday.
Well, they're 3 back on the loss side, and they opened a 3-game series in St. Louis Tuesday night. So it's unheard of from the odds standpoint, because they've only been over 500 once or twice this year. Only 1 game or 2 games over is the most they've ever been over 500. To think they still have a chance to win the division. They have no chance at all to the wild card.
Ray Sanchez, the hitter, right-handed batter, 8th in the order. The Cubs have not had a base runner against Kurt Schilling, and that is what makes it that much tougher tonight, Harry, because as we look at the standings, this guy, one of the top pitchers in the league.
He's a great pitcher. I tell you, I don't know. Is he going to be a free agent at the end of the year?
Well, I'm not sure. They have the Phillies can pick up his option because he's started 22 games, so I don't know if he has a way out of that or not.
I don't think they're going to let him go.
Hey, Joe, I got to get something with John.
Okay.
John, take a good look at me. I've heard your takeoff on me. Now, do I look like I've been inebriated tonight?
In the hole at short, Stocker throws out Sanchez, and that's out number 2.
Because I've heard you many times, and I swear I must be drunk. I have to ask my wife, is that me he's talking about?
No. I just do a caricature.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Only friends do things like that.
You're right. He has a lot of respect.
No, my Harry Carey that at banquets and stuff is that Harry Carey is the fan in the broadcast booth.
Well, you're right about that.
But I also have, I once said, oh, that ball is hit hard by Foster, deep left center field, off the wall. And Foster has a double. The first base runner against Schilling is the pitcher, Kevin Foster, who came to the professional baseball as a third baseman.
That's
Swings
right.
a pretty good bat.
I think in the Philadelphia organization, if I'm not mistaken. Either started with Montreal or Philadelphia. No, I was kidding you. A lot of people do it. There's a comedian who makes his money doing it, a guy named John Campaneris, and he's very funny. I enjoy it.
People do you.
The best ball player ever did me was Johnny Bench.
Yeah,
he had
I've
the
heard
routine down.
Yeah.
100%.
People do you the way that comedians always did John Wayne and Kirk Douglas, right? Because you're big. You're big. That's why.
Wow, boy, you're talking about giants.
Yeah, Brian McRae, and he fouls one back to the group. But
now I understand why you're so successful. You're a hell of a politician.
0-1 to McRae. Well, people say, what's Harry Carey like when he's not broadcasting? So I had a scenario where you wake up in the morning. That ball is hit deep in the right field. That one is way back there. It could be. It might be a great catch at the wall. Holy cow. Harry, what happened on that one?
Boy, you sound... I wish I could sound like John Miller right now. A good takeoff.
It's still 1-0 Phillies after 3. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball from Chicago. And we want to thank Harry Carey for stopping by. It really, truly made it like we were here in Chicago at Wrigley Field with you stopping by to join us, Harry.
Well,
we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And thank
Joe,
you for stopping by.
Thank you very much. Had a lot of fun. And
all right, we'll be looking for the 7th inning for you to sing over there in the 7th inning. We'll hear you. All right, thanks.
Harry Carey, the voice of the Cubs and the voice of baseball for more than 50 years. And you know, the thing that I always liked about Harry, and everybody has a Harry Carey story or a Harry Carey impression, but for Harry, the game was always the thing.
Right.
I mean, he gave you the game. He talks about the game. He analyzes the game. He gets excited about the game. He gets upset about the game, but it's always about the game. And ultimately, Harry is probably taught more people this game than anybody ever has. Still 1-0 for the Phillies. Kevin Foster goes to work against Greg Jeffries. Ray Sanchez, he got out there in a hurry. Nice play. There's one man gone.
Let's take a look at this catch that Ruben Amaro makes, Ruben Amaro Jr. makes to end the inning. Brian McRae drilled this ball. It appeared that it was going to be off the wall, but Amaro got back there and saved at least a run here, and maybe more. Nice play there by Amaro. And there you see he gets congratulations from his teammates. He was a late entry into this ball game for the Phillies.
Was not supposed to actually be in the lineup tonight. The only run of the game driven home by this man, Benito Santiago. He hit a spectacular home run to straightaway center field back in the second. His 27th home run of the year. 1-0. The Phillies are on top. This huge ball game for the Cubs. And that's low. A changeup missing from Kevin Foster. Santiago. Zuber on deck here in the fourth. It's interesting, Joe, you talk about the Cubs and big ball game for them, and of course, for a manager and the players, the hope never goes out that they have a shot, as long as they're, especially in their situation, they could go to St. Louis 3 back in the loss column, as Harry pointed out, with 3 games there. But still in all, if you remove yourself from the situation directly, I mean, it's difficult to really think of the Cubs seriously, even now, as a contender.
Well, that's true. Because I still think that, you know, when you think of the contenders, everybody thinks of Houston, St. Louis, and even the Reds on the outskirts, along with the Cubs, I guess.
3-1 the count. 3-2. The thing that's different, I guess, is that unlike some ball clubs who are still close, I mean, the Cubs are still close because the Cardinals' record, although they're a division leader, their overall record's not that good.
Yeah.
The Cubs are just 1 game over 500. That's the reality of the situation, and they're lacking their biggest slugger, their best hitter, Sammy Sosa. And that is just off the corner for ball 4. So Santiago gets a walk here, the first allowed by Foster.
Well, you could see he was being very careful with Santiago, especially since Santiago hit a home run his first time up. And that ball is clearly off the plate outside. You see Foster wanted it, but you'll watch Houston reach off the plate to bring it back, so pitch was outside.
So Santiago at first with 1 out. Here is John Zuber. Kevin Foster on the mound. He grew up near here, Evanston, Illinois, and used to come to Wrigley Field all the time when he was a kid. It was a great thrill for him when he got traded here. Actually got traded here by the Phillies. He had been signed as a third baseman by the Montreal Expos organization, and his manager in the minor leagues, Felipe Alou, ironically, suggested to him that he ought to think about becoming a pitcher. He had a great arm, wasn't hitting much, and Foster followed his advice and went into camp as a pitcher the next year, and he struck out nearly 13 batters per 9 innings the next year, his first as a pitcher in the Sally League. He's also been in the Mariner organization, then went to the Phillies, and finally the Phillies traded him here to the Cubs, and that was a great thrill for him. Change up low for a ball.
The interesting thing is he pitched his first Major League complete game against the Expos last week to hurt them in their wild card chances in their pursuit of the Braves. It was his first complete game. He beat the Expos 3-1
against Felipe Alou. 1 ball, 1 strike to Zuber. Ruben Amaro is on deck. Santiago at first, and that is strike 2. 1 ball and 2 strikes now. He's throwing a lot of off-speed stuff here to Zuber.
Well, you see that his fastball, he's used his fastball a lot early in the game. Now he's going a lot to his changeup. His changeup's an excellent pitch, but he has to have a good fastball to make the changeup work.
Grace on the back at first with Santiago. 1-0. The Phillies on top. We're in the 4th inning. There goes Santiago. Right center field. McRae. On number 2. Back to first goes Santiago. Well, we talked to Kevin Foster about this change in his professional career, and Felipe Alou suggested he try pitching.
Felipe pulled me into his office after a road trip and said to me, you know, I think, you know, you would be a good guy to fit, you know, out on the pitcher's mound. I'm kind of looking at him like, you know, whoa, you know, wait a minute. You know, I haven't done that since high school, really. I did a little bit of relieving in junior college a little bit, but it was something to think about. You know, I wasn't playing, but I wanted to keep a uniform on my back. So, you know, I went back, you know, home and thought about it a little bit, talked it over with my father a little bit, and came back the next day and said, you know, I'll do it.
And now here he is. He's a 7-game winner and has pitched particularly well right here at home at Wrigley Field. 5-0 in this ballpark this year. 0-1 the count to Ruben Amaro, who flied out deep to center his first time. He sent McCray all the way back to the ivy out there. Ryan Sandberg. And that ends the inning. One man left. We go to the last of the 4th inning. Timmons and then Grace and Gonzalez. 1-0 Phils. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. Phillies 1, Cubs nothing as we go to the last of the 4th at Wrigley Field. Tuesday at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. It's the New England Revolution taking on DC United in Major League Soccer. United has clinched a playoff spot, but the Revolution needs a win to hold on to the final playoff spot in the East. That's New England versus DC United, Tuesday at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. Here's Ozzie Timmons facing Curt Schilling. Timmons struck out his first time, and that's a called strike. Curt Schilling, really exciting to see how well he's come back. I mean, this guy's had tremendous physical problems. A couple of times he's had surgery. He's had bone spurs. He's had a cartilage tear in his left knee, torn cartilage in his right shoulder. He's had a couple of bone spurs removed, and yet here he is. And Joe, sometimes I think people don't understand how tough, how much hard work and how much painful hard work is involved when you are an athlete rehabbing from surgery.
You're right. I went through that a couple of times myself, and it takes its toll on you. I mean, you have to really, it's more of a mental thing, John, than it is physical. You have to have the mindset to say, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get back. You know, you fight through the pain, you fight through the boringness of sitting there every day lifting weights and doing things. So it's more of a mindset, I think, mentally than it is physical stress.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Timmons. After Timmons, it's Mark Grace. And then Luis Gonzalez, 1-0. Schilling and the Phillies are on top. Schilling, as you see Grace awaiting his turn on deck. Schilling's used to this kind of tight ball game. Most of his games all year have been this way. The Phillies have not scored many runs. Still 1 ball and 2 strikes.
John, I wanted to take a quick moment to say hello to Archie Fregosi. That's Jim Fregosi's father. He had a slight stroke recently, and he's in the Sequoia Hospital in Redwood City, California. And Jim wanted me to tell him, say hello to him, and we'll do that and wish him our best from ESPN here.
1-2 the count. The 4th ball. Did he swing? Yes. Strike 3, and Timmons strikes out for the 2nd straight time. 4 strikeouts for Schilling.
Take a look at this. There's the splitter. You see it going down. See the reverse rotation. And Timmons started, couldn't stop, and he becomes the 4th strikeout victim for Schilling here in the 4th inning.
Now Mark Grace. 8 homers, 36 doubles, 72 batted in. Just never has developed into a home run hitter.
Right.
But
and that's tough, John. In this ballpark, you would think that he would, you know, hit more home runs because this is a home run hitter's ballpark. And you would think that, especially, I mean, the right center field is very short, left center field is short. You would think that you don't have to pull the ball here as the point to hit the ball out. Now, I'm just surprised that he has not developed more power in this ballpark.
1 ball, 1 strike the count to him. And a good fastball on the outside, strike 2. I remember when Andre Dawson played here with the then young Mark Grace. Right. Dawson used to talk about how Grace would eventually need to learn how to turn in the ball and hit with some power. That just missed on the outside, 2-2. But on the other hand, Grace now has developed into a guy, a 330, 340 type hitter. A lot of extra base power other than the home run power. There's a base hit to left field.
And he is one of the finest hitters in the league, but the position that he plays, first base, you expect, you know, run production from there and a few more home runs. He's very similar to Tony Gwynn in that if you pitch him away, that ball's down and away. You see, he doesn't try to pull it. He just slaps it in the hole to left field. He just stays there, and that's the reason that he really doesn't hit many home runs, John, is he keeps his front shoulder in, and he can't really turn a lot. So he doesn't turn a lot, similar to Tony Gwynn in that Tony Gwynn keeps his front shoulder in. To hit for power, you're going to have to open that front shoulder and generate some bat speed and power with your hips.
Luis Gonzalez, he's got a little power. Gonzalez, the former Houston Astros, hit 12 home runs this year for the Cubs. Great big guy. You know, it's funny that Gonzalez is another guy. They always thought in Houston that he would become a big 25 home run man, and that never happened either.
But again, it's all has to do with the approach that both of them take. Gonzalez is not a pull hitter. Neither is Mark Grace.
One strike to count. One on, one out. Jeffries out number 2.
And you see a very similar stroke. He slaps the ball the other way. And that's the way that they hit. Now watch, see, he's very similar. You didn't see his hips rotate out of there or his shoulders. He just slaps the ball the other way. Very similar, as I said, to Mark Grace.
Now here is Dave Magadan. Grace first.
Magadan, same type hitter. You have 3 hitters in a row here who are very similar, John.
And Grace last year did hit 51 doubles.
Right.
I mean, you start hitting that many doubles, not many do that. And he hit 16 home runs. But again, that's not the prototypical first baseman who hits his 30 home runs or whatever.
I mean, he's not, you know, obviously he's not the Mark McGuires or the Mo Bonds or those type of players. He's very similar. Hal Morris is similar to Mark Grace.
On the other hand, I mean, there are very few first basemen in a league with Grace defensively.
You're exactly right. He's probably the best defensive first baseman in the National League.
Now, apparently something wrong with Magadan's bat. He has convinced umpire Brian Gibbons that he needs a new one.
Well, it sounds like he's taking too much pressure up near the handle there. It had a little crack in it because you can't tell sometimes.
You've got to have something actually wrong with the bat to, in the middle of your appearance at the plate, be able to go get a new one. 1 ball to no strikes.
That's a rule change in the last couple of years to help speed up the game. Guys used to go back to the on-deck circle, get more pine tar. They'd go back, you know, maybe and get some rosin. And that has been changed. You cannot go back to the on-deck circle now and get rosin or pine tar.
That was a good change.
Yeah.
The heck with that. That's why Ozzie Guillen plays on the other side of town with the White Sox. You ever notice how his batting helmet is covered with all this goo? It looks terrible. He puts pine tar all over his helmet because he says he likes to use a lot of pine tar. And if he has a long at bat, and of course, how often does he? I mean, he goes up there to hack. But he's got some pine tar he can get off right off his helmet and rub it on the bat some more. So there's one way, and an ingenious way of getting around that rule.
Well, I always believe, John, that you should look good out there in case you didn't play good.
You should look sharp.
Yeah, look sharp. Don't, you know, just have goo all over your helmet.
Feel sharp.
Yeah, you shouldn't have all that stuff going on.
Up the middle, base hit. Well, that means Ryan Sandberg is going to have a chance here to do some damage. 2 men on, with 2 men out, and Sandberg coming up.
And we talked about the 3 left-handed hitters being similar. All 3 of them looked very similar on that at bat. Now in Sandberg, you'll see a little difference. That's how he can drive the ball out of the ballpark. You will see his front shoulder open up.
Well, and listen to Wrigley Field. Welcome into the plate here. Sandberg. Well, he has come back this year. He's had 2 different years where he drove in 100 runs. There's a fastball for a strike. And he has 87 RBIs, and that already equals his 3rd best RBI total. If you recall, I mean, you think of Rhino as a guy who hits home runs and that, but he always hits second in the Cubs order.
Right.
Not a big RBI position. They're using him more as an RBI man this year. Base hit, get tie of the game. Grace hit second, Magadan at first. 1-0 the Phillies. And you see Schilling throwing hard stuff, keeping it away from Rhino. He struck him out the first time.
Well, he threw him a lot of fastballs the first time up and then got him with a splitter after he got 2 strikes. And I'm sure that's the pattern that he was hoping to use in this at-bat. Get ahead of him and then get Rhino to chase something out of the strike zone.
Right field, but is hanging up there. And Amaro makes the catch. And that retires the side. So a threat for the Cubs, but they're still down in this key game for them. 1-0 Philly after 4.
Reese Davis back with you. White Sox and Red Sox this afternoon. The big hurt, and you can't put it on the board. For the 3rd time, his 3rd solo homer off from Wakefield in the top of the 5th, 3rd of the game. But in the bottom half, Mo Vaughn answers with his 2nd job of the day. Number 41, he had 5 RBIs. Was tied up at 8 until the bottom of the 9th when that man, Troy O'Leary, bounces one right up the middle, and that's your ball game. White Sox fall 2.5 behind the Orioles in the wild card. Back to Johnny, Joe, and Rick.
Thank you, Reese. And for the Phillies, Wendell McGee Jr. takes a called strike from Kevin Foster. 1-0. The Phillies are on top. The only run of the game, the home run by Benito Santiago in the 2nd inning into center field. 1-0 Phillies. And the swing and a miss, strike 2. Well, big loss today for the Chicago White Sox. And the Baltimore Orioles now with a 2.5 game advantage and 3 in the loss column in that wild card race. And the Orioles, of course, also have their eyes on that Eastern Division where they themselves trail the Yankees by 2.5. 3 in the loss column. And they've got a big showdown in New York with the Yanks beginning Tuesday. And ESPN will be there for Game 2 of that series. Wednesday night baseball. Pretty good matchup that night. Scott Erickson's won 4 in a row for the Orioles, the veteran right-hander. And Andy Pettit, sensational young lefty, who's won 21 games already. McGee is down on strikes, and there is 1 away.
John, let's take a look at these Gonzalez as one of the left-handed hitters and talk about his stroke. Now watch where his shoulder, see his front shoulder, see how it remains in. All right. Now as he swings, see his hips are open, that's nice, but you should have the bat out front. If you're going to pull the ball, you have the bat out front. See where it is here? When he makes contact, that's why he hits the ball to left field, and he can only hit it that way because he's making contact late. To hit the ball out of the ballpark and to drive the ball, you have to have the barrel out front. It doesn't mean you always pull the ball, but you have to have the barrel in front of the plate.
And all 3 of those lefties we saw there in the 4th inning for the Cubs all had a similar approach.
Yes.
Grace ended up hitting a single, and then Gonzalez lined out to the left fielder, and then Magadan hit a single.
Right.
And none of the 3 pulled the ball.
That's exactly right. Especially you had a runner on first base when Magadan was up. You had Grace on first. You try to take advantage of that hole. That's why you want a strong left-handed hitter to hit in the top of the order when you have a guy on first base. He takes a shot at that hole, and by pulling it, he also gives himself a chance to drive the ball out of the ballpark or drive it deep in the gaps.
Kevin Sepsic. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Sepsic, like the man he's facing, is a native of the Chicago area from Oak Lawn, Illinois, a Chicago suburb. 2-2 the count. Pass, Foster off his glove. Sandberg. And he throws out Sepsic, out number 2. 2 men gone, and Curt Schilling is coming up. Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. It's part 4 of ESPN's 5-part series chronicling the legendary Brooklyn Dodgers. Host Roger Kahn recounts the stories of the original America's team and their heroes. That's the story of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern on ESPN.
And that is quite a story, John. I've watched most of it, and it's a great story.
Well, I'm sorry that I never had a chance to go to Ebbets Field.
I am too.
I mean, we're here at beautiful Wrigley Field, which was built about 7 years after Ebbets Field was built. But Ebbets Field, even though it hasn't really existed for 38 years, people still talk about it with that same fondness which they talk about Wrigley Field or Fenway Park.
I missed Ebbets Field and I missed the Polo Grounds. Those are the 2 places I wish I would have had an opportunity to play in and, you know, have a chance to see.
Well, like Wrigley Field, I guess Ebbets Field had that intimacy. Fans were right on top of the the field, and it also had its own peculiarities. The game was a little bit different the way it was played at Ebbets Field. They had a shallow right field and the big scoreboard out there with a high wall, and it was right in the neighborhood. He hit one over the screen and right, it landed out on a street. 2-2 the count to Schilling. 2 down, nobody on, and it's a full count now. Well, it's been a real good series about the old Brooklyn Dodgers. A lot of interesting home movie footage that's never been seen before. Interviews with many who played for the Dodgers at that time. Schilling hits that one hard. Timmons, nice catch. Kevin Foster is rolling along, but he's still trailing 1-0. We go to the last of the 5th. We'll be back.
Reese Davis with you. Braves and Mets, and boy, when Atlanta's in trouble, they turn to Tom Glavine. Singles right up the middle, scores Jermaine Dye. Braves up 2-0. Now, Atlanta been on a 6-game losing streak, and the great one taking care of Edgardo Alfonso, and then Tim Bogar. 10 Ks for Glavine. Braves win it 3-2. Back to John and Joe in Wrigley.
Thank you, Reese. 14 wins for Glavine now, and Montreal lost 5.5 games ahead now, and of course they've got 8 games against each other. But at this point, the Expos cannot afford to fall back after the pretty good run they've made. They were way behind a while ago. Today they lose ground to the Atlanta Braves. Here's Tyler Houston, a former Brave, and that's a foul. 0-1 the count as he faces Curt Schilling. Schilling trying to put the hurt to the Chicago Cubs before they head out to St. Louis. And it looks like we have some serendipitous scheduling, Joe, in these last couple of weeks. Oh, Harry taught me that.
Yes.
Go Cubs!
1 strike the count to Tyler Houston.
Now you've taught me.
Because we got the great race in the National League West, the Padres and the Dodgers, and they've got 7 head-to-head games the final 2 weekends of the year. The Braves and the Expos have gotten reasonably close here lately. They've got 8 games against each other. 1-2 the count. And in the American League this week, the Yankees and Orioles had the big 3-game showdown. You'll be able to see game 2 of that series. 7:30 Eastern on Wednesday. The top 2 teams in the West, the Rangers and the Mariners, go at it head-to-head in Seattle. You'll be able to see the second game of that series Wednesday night. Tough hop there for the second baseman, Morandini, but he plays it nicely, and there is 1 away. Houston is retired. Again, coming up, Wednesday night baseball. Rafael Palmeiro, 136 RBIs, and the Orioles taking on Derek Jeter and the Yankees. That Oriole lineup, now the most prolific home run hitting team of all time. Bobby Bonilla, Cal Ripken, what a lineup. Then Juan Gonzalez. He's a great lineup all unto himself. 133 RBIs coming into the weekend. Alex Rodriguez, 2 of the top MVP candidates in the American League going head-to-head there. Plus Ken Griffey, Will Clark, Ivan Rodriguez, Jay Buhner, Edgar Martinez.
You know what? I think I'll go up and watch that game.
You do more driving on Wednesdays than anybody I've ever seen. Ray Sanchez, the hitter. Over to right center. Morrow's under it. And the 2 men are gone.
And John, you know, speaking of scheduling, you know, a lot of people may wonder why we're doing this game tonight instead of, you know, one of the other real close pennant race games that were, you know, played today.
Yeah.
And I think
was going to ask that.
Yeah, I think people should understand that, you know, because of the way the scheduling is made, we have to give them our schedule in November and, you know, the year before. So how are you going to tell who's there at the end? I think they're going to have some kind of way of being able to choose the top games, you know, the last 3 weekends or the last month of the season for our Sunday night telecast.
Here's Kevin Foster. He got the first hit of the night against Schilling, and he ripped a shot into left center field that hit the wall for a double. Well, you know, here's my solution to that, Joe.
Okay.
Come September,
right?
Just leave it to you and me.
I'll go for that.
And we'll pick them.
I think that works well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works for me.
We can get Harry Carey to maybe write us a letter or something of recommendation. Okay. 0-2 the count now to Foster. 2 down, nobody on in the last of the 5th inning. Well, even then, as it turned out, we end up with a Pretty interesting night here.
Interesting situation because the Cardinals losing today gives the Cubs a little more incentive. And as you mentioned, they're going to St. Louis Tuesday to play the Cardinals, and they're only 3 games behind the loss column at this point.
And there's also one other thing to consider when we talk about that. Okay. If they can win tonight, and they're facing one of the best pitchers in the league, Schilling. They're trailing 1-0. If they can win, they go in there 3 back in the loss column. And the Cubs-Cardinals, Joe, that is one of the ancient rivalries in baseball. Just think of that.
Yes.
Well, still 1-0. Top of the order coming up for the Phillies when we get back. Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field, Chicago. And there's some of the fans out there in the bleachers here at Wrigley. Yeah, life is good. And, Joe, we wanted to make sure that we have some verification for the ratings company. We're doing our own survey. And look what we found them watching across the street there. Sunday Night Baseball. So I'm saying that those ratings are probably going to be pretty high tonight based on our survey so far. We're here right in the middle of a neighborhood in Chicago. The Wrigley Field has been since it opened in 1916 as Weekman Park. Here is Mickey Morandini. This ballpark actually was built not for the Cubs, but for a Federal League team. That one hit hard to right field, but caught by Timmons. Morandini is out number 1. Every single person needs a place like this.
Yeah, if you're in Chicago.
Well, I mean, look at that. Just sit right out there, open the window, and watch the ball game. Now, when I was a kid, Joe, that would have been the all-time dream, you know?
Or to be on the roof with the other fans up there.
It's a good gathering out there on the rooftop, even as it gets cooler here in Chicago. 64 degrees at game time, but temperatures will drop into the 40s later. Stocker hits that one pretty well. Timmons can't handle it. Off the doorway. And Stocker is into second with a double.
That was an example of Timmons. He actually turned the wrong way, John. The ball was over his right shoulder, and he turned to his left. And he never could get himself turned around so that he could make the catch. Now watch, see, the ball's over his left shoulder as we're viewing it, but the ball actually started over his right shoulder, so he could never get turned around. He should have been turned around facing this way, and he would have been able to make the catch, but the ball had him turned around. He never made the play.
So Ozzie Timmons should have had it. Here's Greg Jeffries trying to turn that into a run now. Swung at a bad ball from third base. The throw by Magadan, not in time. Well, Greg Jeffries, not only a good hitter, but very fast.
Well, yeah, he's stolen a lot of bases over his career, but Magadan was playing kind of deep. He charged it, and he didn't get enough on the throw, and Jeffries, you have to give him credit. He was hustling all the way. He was able to beat it out. Now, see how far off the third base bag Magadan is. Now, watch. Just does not get enough on the throw. As you can see, Jeffries easily beats the throw to first base.
Well, he smelled base hit on that one, and he got it.
Well, you're right.
Stocker holding at second. 2 men on, 1 man out. And here is Benito Santiago, who has produced the only run of the game. So this is just the man that Jim Fregosi wants to have up there with a couple of men on. And this is a big spot now in this ball game. A crisis for Foster. He's in trouble. Santiago hit that booming home run in the second, and he walked in the fourth. Stocker at second, Jeffries at first. Fastball missing. 1 ball and no strikes. You know, Joe, Greg Jeffries, interesting guy, and he has a certain, remember, at least he used to have a certain procedure he followed with his bats. After every game, he would use alcohol to strip and polish his bats after every game, because he thought that the dust could make them heavier.
Well, Pete Rose used to do that all the time too, John. He'd take all the pine tar off, as I'm sure Jeffries does, wipe it down so it looks like a brand new bat every day.
Also, nobody is allowed to touch his bat.
He doesn't buy them.
Well, you're just not allowed. You're not allowed to touch them.
The Phillies buy them.
Well, that doesn't matter. They buy them for him, and then they're not allowed to touch them. There's a high drive deep into left field. Gonzalez back at the wall. Gone, a home run. Benito Santiago with his second home run of the game. His 28th of the year. And it is 4-0 for the Phillies. That is a backbreaker.
And, John, are you ready for this? He has now faced Kevin Foster. He has 3 at-bats, 3 home runs, including the walk he received earlier. But he's had 3 base hits. All of them have been home runs. It's another high fastball. This one is a bad pitch, John. It's moving in, and you can see that Santiago is ready for it. He turns on it, and that's the difference between what we're showing you against the left-handed hitters. As you see, Foster, he knows that he's never been able to get Santiago out. Now it's cost him 4 runs in tonight's ball game.
4-0. So Benito Santiago in his best year for the long ball with his 28th homer. And now he has 81 RBIs. That one kind of a Wrigley Field home run, though. There's no wind really blowing tonight to either help a ball or hinder the flight of a ball. But he hit it right to the spot where the fence comes in, or rather cozily there.
That was definitely a Wrigley Field home run, but he was playing in Wrigley Field, so he hit the Wrigley Field dimensions. He was playing in Philly. He may have hit it a little farther.
And his own taste of the friendly confines there. You saw Bottenfield warming up in the Cubs bullpen. Kent Bottenfield, as John Zuber takes ball 1. 4-0 for the Phillies. Gonzalez, and that is out number 2. A long run for that one. A lot of fly balls have been hit tonight, all night, against Foster by the Phillies.
Well, I mean, Santiago is 3 for 3, 3 home runs and 6 RBIs against Foster, and 1 base on ball. That's pretty good hitting against one guy.
I'd be thinking about maybe changing my approach to Santiago by about this time.
Well, I think he changed it last time. He walked him, but he didn't have a place to put him this at bat.
Morrow turning away from that high, tight fastball. 1 ball and no strikes. 4-0 for the Phillies. And I tell you that with Curt Schilling on the mound and the way he's pitched tonight, without Sammy Sosa in the lineup, that looks pretty big. 4-0 if you're the Cubs.
And you're right, John. What a lot of people do not understand about a power hitter, it's very difficult to come from behind if you do not have power on your team. You're not going to go out and get 5 or 6 or 7 hits in a row off of Schilling to score 3 runs or 4 runs. You need someone that can get you 3 or 4 with this one swing of the bat. Of course, Sandberg can do that, but he's about the only one in the lineup that you can count on to do something like that. When you lose Sammy Sosa, you're losing a guy that has 40 home runs. You know he's capable of doing it.
2-1 the count. Fair ball past the diving Grayson down the right field line. Hustling over to pick it up is Timmons. Heading for second is Amaro. And he's in there with a double. Good throw by Timmons. But Amaro was just in there ahead of it.
Well, that defeats Dennis Minke's theory that he was going to get a base hit his first time up and do nothing the rest of the evening because he's used to pinch hitting. He goes his 3rd at bat. He grounds it right down the line. You watch Grace make a dive for it right off the tip of his glove. And a good play in right field, as you said. Timmons comes over, fields it quickly, and throws a strike to second base. Amaro barely in ahead of the throw.
Well, in this inning against Foster now, they've had a single, 2 doubles, and a home run. To get rather sloppy out there for Foster. 3 runs are in, and they've got a chance to get another one here. Wendell McGee Jr. Runner in scoring position. He singled and struck out.
He's still throwing well, John. That last pitch was 90 miles an hour.
Wow. Another 90-mile-an-hour heater, and he blew it past him. 0-2 the count. 4-0 the Phillies in the 6th inning. At second base, Ruben Amaro. And he struck him out. But some rather heavy Santiago with his second home run of the night. This one, a 3-run shot. McCray, Timmons, and Grace coming up. The Cubs trailing 4-0.
Reese Davis back with you. Rockies and Astros, and Andres Galarraga. He races a 2-0 lead, or at least cuts it in half. 2-1 the score. Bottom 6 now. Galarraga, the big cat. 45th of the year, second of the day, a 3-run job. Rockies jumped up 11-2. They'd win it 11-4. They've won 8 in a row. They start a series with the Dodgers tomorrow.
So hard times for the Houston Astros, but they got some help from the Dodgers, who beat the Cardinals for them. The Astros still very much alive in the Central. But the Cubs right now, their chances already slim, and they're getting slimmer here as they are trailing 4-0. Top of the batting order, Brian McCray takes ball 1 from Curt Schilling. Up the middle, base hit. McCray with his first hit of the game.
Well, Schilling may not know how to pitch with a 4-0 lead, John. They haven't scored a lot of runs for him, and he does have that luxury now.
Oh, we know he can pitch in a tight ball game. Let's see how he can handle prosperity. Ozzie Timmons coming up. Brian McCray, ordinarily you would think of him as a threat to steal with 35 steals, but I don't know, Joe, down by 4. What do you think?
Well, if he goes, he has to be 100% sure he's going to make it.
Ozzie Timmons has struck out twice in this game, and he takes a called strike.
And with the fact that Santiago has thrown out 15 of his last 30, I would say no.
Well, that's a good point, though. I mean, this is a spot where a guy like Santiago becomes a weapon.
Right. You're exactly right.
Like the outstanding catcher in Texas. I mean, Rodriguez. I mean, he just shuts down people like Kenny Lofton, the best stealers in the league. Not that he throws them out even so much as that a lot of people just don't even try to steal with him back there. In the dirt. 1 ball, 1 strike to Timmons.
And there's nothing that a base stealer hates worse than someone or a manager telling him, no, this guy's behind the plate, we better not try it right now. Base stealer hates that because it's like everything else. It's kind of an intimidation factor.
So which catcher did they tell you not to run against? That's a high foul off to the right.
Well, they once told me not to run against Bench, but I didn't listen.
But you hated it, didn't you?
Yes, I hated it. That's why I brought it up. Yes, I hated it.
So you with Houston, he was...
Yeah, but when he was in his first or second year.
And what happened? Did he throw you out?
I'm sure he did on occasion. Yeah, he got me once. And I said, well, I'll just have to get a better jump next time. That's the way you defeat that. You steal it off the pitcher.
And Timmons just got a piece of it. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Mark Grace on deck. Jim Riggleman, he told us before the game, this is the biggest game of the year for the Cubs. They need to win. And of course, if they win, then the biggest game of the year will be Tuesday night in St. Louis. That one is hit high in the air to deep center field. McGee with room. And McCray will go back to first.
Actually, the wind started kicking up a little bit, and it's blowing out towards left field a little bit.
Well, we had no wind here at all, but now you can see the flags being blown about a bit and right out toward left field. So 1 out. Mark Grace coming up. The catcher, Santiago, out to chat with Schilling for a moment. Mark Grace has grounded out, and he is single. At this point, they need base runners, and they'll gladly take a single from Grace if they can get it. But he's, like a lot of hitters, had a hard time against Schilling over the years. Very late on that fastball. 0-1. Curt Schilling in those National League playoffs in '93, the Braves and the Phillies, did not get a decision in 2 starts and still received the most valuable player award in that series. He made 2 starts and just shut the Braves down. Ball outside. And then in the World Series that year, the Phillies down 3-1 the night after they had lost 15-14 to the Blue Jays. He shut out the Jays at the vet. Right through the legs of the first baseman Zuber. Everybody's safe. McRae to second, and Grace at first.
So that's a situation where inexperience hurts you right there. He was trying to catch the ball and turn to go to second base for a double play. When you have a 4-run lead, you just make sure the out. You give up the base to McRae. See, he's trying to go to second base to make the double play. He should be down, just block it, just stay down, get in front of the ball, stay down on it, and make sure you get one out at first base. He did not do so, and so the Phillies are in trouble now.
Luis Gonzalez comes up. He has bounced out to the catcher, and he is lined out to the left fielder. Two men on, one man out. High and foul off to the left. And again, they gladly take a single from Gonzalez, a single to left or wherever if he can get one. They need base runners.
Yeah,
down by 4.
Well, you're in a situation now, you get one here, one there, and before you know it, you're back in the game. You do not have to get them all back at once.
It's almost like they're in a good spot in their lineup now, Joe. 3 guys against a tough strikeout pitcher who are pretty good at making
and
contact.
will put the ball in play. You're right.
Magadan is on deck.
Then you have Sandberg in the hole.
You get, after these 3, then you got the power guy, Sandberg. Grace at first, Gonzalez at the plate, Magadan on deck. Also McRae out there at second base. This could be 2. Morandini to second 1. Stocker back to first. Double play. And just like that, the side is retired. Sometimes putting the ball in play is not good. 4-0 Phillies after 6. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball from Wrigley Field, Chicago. John Miller, Joe Morgan, your Sunday night telecasters. Kevin Sefcik takes ball 1 from Kevin Foster. Sefcik, the 8th place hitter, is struck out, and he is grounded out. He'll be followed by Schilling, the pitcher, and then Morandini, the leadoff man. Top of the 7th, the Phillies with 4 runs and 6 hits. The Cubs, no runs and 4 hits. And the big double play ball hit into by Gonzalez. Cubs had a couple of men on there. Gotten a break on the error by Zuber, but then Bert Schilling responded very nicely. There is Larry Cassian. One-time Minnesota Twin warming up in the bullpen. There's a soft ground ball. To the hole at short. Sanchez on the move. Safe at first base. He took a little extra step, it looked like, before he could get the grip on the ball, and that cost him.
I'll tell you something else, John. It seems like the grass here may be a little higher than you like, because the ball there, that ball's hit hard enough that he shouldn't have had to charge it as quickly as he did, but he couldn't get out of his glove on the initial reach in, and so he's safe.
Well, you know, I talked to Leo Gomez, third baseman for the Cubs before the ball game. He's not playing tonight. Asked him how the infield is playing. Here's Schilling. And the shows bunt takes a ball. And he said, well, he says the grass is the slowest grass that he's ever seen.
Well, you can tell just by the way they're fielding.
And he said the dirt itself, when the ball gets there, is pretty fast. Here's Leo Gomez, former Baltimore Oriole. But he says the grass on the infield is good for old guys. Foster wants to go to second. No play there. Sandberg covering at first, and the sacrifice has worked. Sefcik has been moved up.
Good job there by Schilling to move Sefcik up to second base.
Well, we're going to have a pitching change, it looks like. And Cassian will be coming on to face Morandini. Runner at second. 4-0 Phillies. We'll be back.
Watch out. This is as rough and tough as it gets.
You think you're tough? I would be
Sports Illustrated knocks you over with the hard-hitting new video, the NFL's 100 toughest players of all time. You also get this exclusive Pro Football Hall of Fame coach.
Cohen and I join you for Sports Center after the game.
Runner at second. 1 out in the 7th inning. And the batter is Mickey Morandini against the new pitcher, Larry Cassian, on in relief of Kevin Foster. And every team needs a A lefty who can come in and get a lefty out for them. Cassian very often comes in just to face the one man. A couple of switch hitters will follow. And the bullpen is busy. There's a called strike. 1 ball, 1 strike to Morandini. Cassian has been in 28 games and only pitched 17 1/3 innings. But for the most part, he's pitched them successfully. Morandini is flying to center, ground to the second, and he is flying to right. 4-0. The Phillies are on top. Ryan Sandberg to his right. And there's out number 2 with Sefcik moving to third. Well, let's go back to that bunt play by Schilling and listen carefully as the catcher calls out the play.
And you could clearly hear the catcher calling second base, but Foster decided not to go to second. Once he hesitates, you can't go there. You have to pick it up and throw right away. It was going to be a close play at second, but Foster chose to go to first base for the sure out.
Kevin Stocker, the hitter now. Foster responsible for Sefcik, the runner at third base. Kevin Stocker, pretty good shortstop. He was a big help to the Phillies in the stretch run coming up for the minor leagues in 1993 when they went to the series. Like Ryan Sandberg, he's from Spokane, Washington. And both of them pretty good middle infielders.
And Stocker actually better average-wise. He's a better hitter from the right side. And they're letting him hit from his best side.
Stocker hit a double back in the 6th inning. He's also flied out deep to center and fouled out to third. 278 average from the right side, only 245 from the left side. In fact, you see some updated figures on that based on what he's done tonight. And the changeup low and outside. 2 balls and a strike. Runner at third. 2 down. The Phillies already leading 4-0. The wind has increased here at Wrigley Field. Out toward left field. Sort of a Ryan Sandberg breeze, I'd say.
Any right-hander in this ballpark, if you get the ball up when the wind is blowing out.
Who told you that? Mike Schmidt? Here's the
I watched Mike Schmidt.
Man, what did he hit here? If he played here, what would he
You're
have
right. He hit 4 home runs in 1 game here at Wrigley Field.
The Cubs and Phillies have played some of the wildest games that any teams have ever played in this ballpark over the years. Benito Santiago tonight has got a hold of a couple. 2 homers for all of the RBIs in this game up till now.
Kind of deja vu for me, John. I watched the game in Seattle a couple of weeks ago where Mike Greenwell drove in all 9 of his team's runs in a 9-8 victory over Seattle. And there you see what Santiago's done, 28 home runs. The rest of the team that was active with only 23 home runs. And he has driven in all the runs tonight with 2 home runs.
Greg Jeffries, tough hitter, is on deck. 3-2 to Stocker. Jumps on that fastball and drills it right toward the dugout. Now we understand why they have that protective screen up in front of the dugout. 3-2 the count. Suddenly it seemed like in the Midwest, Joe, and in the eastern part of the country, the Northeast, in the last couple of days it started to get cool. Summer ended just like that. 3-2 the count. And the slider for the strikeout, and the inning is over. Well, now it's 7th inning stretch time at Wrigley Field. Harry, take it away.
On your feet, it's time to sing along with Harry. The 7th inning stretch is brought to you by your friends at Budweiser.
All right, Gary over here in the WGN radio booth. Hey, I want to dedicate this tonight to 2 great friends doing the game coast to coast for ESPN on TV, John Miller and Joe Morgan, the great star. All right, let me hear you. All 1, all 2, all 3. Hey, me out to the ball game.
is seen here at Wrigley Field, repeated every Cubs home game, 7th inning stretch. And before that, when he worked on the other side of town at the old Comiskey Park as the voice of the White Sox, the late Bill Veeck, in fact, had the idea. Let's have a Harry lead the fans, and it's become a big tradition here in Chicago. And of course, it just wouldn't be the same if it wasn't Harry leading the way. Don't forget, we're at Wrigley Field tonight. Next week, we'll be at historic Yankee Stadium in New York, New York. Those ancient rivals, those heated rivals, the Boston Red Sox with Mo Vaughn, and the New York Yankees, Derek Jeter, Paul O'Neill, Bernie Williams, Wade Boggs. That will be the second part of a day-night doubleheader, and it could be a key ball game for the Yankees in their bid to win the American League East. That will be 8 Eastern, 7 Central, and 5 Pacific next Sunday night. Well, Curt Schilling, he has been outstanding tonight. Dave Baggett in the hitter. Ryan Sandberg on deck. 4-0. The Cubs are trailing in a big ball game for them. The Phillies trying to make it 2 out of 3 this weekend. And that really, the Cubs just can't afford that. If they're going to actually be serious about it, chasing the Cardinals, they can't lose 2 out of 3 at home to the last place ball club. This is supposed to be when the schedule is to their advantage. Taylor, Joe, how many last place ball clubs have a guy like Curt Schilling to send to the mound every 5th
And
day?
that's true. I mean, Curt Schilling at this moment is one of the best pitchers in all of baseball.
I asked Fregosi to compare Schilling with the way he pitched in 1993 when they went to the series. And he says he's back to that. He's every bit as good as that. And I asked Schilling about it. And Schilling says, I'm throwing harder than I did then. A 4-hit shutout going tonight. No walks. And only 82 pitches up till now. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Magadan.
And remember, he knows how to finish a ball game. He has 6 complete games, which ties him for the league lead with John Smoltz of the Atlanta Braves.
And of course, he had been on the disabled list. So that's 6 complete games in a lot fewer starts than Smoltz. Schilling is only making his 24th start of the year tonight. And one in the dirt, the splitter. 24,697, the paid crowd on a cool Sunday night in Chicago in mid-September. The whole rest of the Phillies pitching staff is, as you see, only 4 complete games. But Schilling himself with 6. Tough in there. And there is the man that they are missing so very badly, Sammy Sosa. 40 home runs. When he got hurt, he was leading the league. 100 RBIs. 3-2. And a foul off to the left. Billy Williams, the former great Chicago Cub outfielder, great left-handed hitter, now the hitting instructor for the Cubs. There's Billy, Hall of Famer. Yeah. And his hope is that they'll be able to get a left-handed power hitter to team with Sosa next year. Give Sammy a little support in that batting order. 3-2 the count. Down the left field line. If it's fair, it's trouble. Fair ball. Jeffries will have to go in and get it. A double for Dave Magadan, and Sandberg is coming up.
Well, you can't defend that type of a ball. Ball's away from him, hits it down the left field line, and it's slicing into the corner. See, that pitch is toward the outside corner. Kind of interesting the way they play Sandberg. They're playing him to pull in left field. Every place else they're playing him straight away.
You see how they play. The center fielder out there, McGee, pretty well straight away, but Jeffries pulled over toward the line a bit. There's a called strike to Sandberg. He has struck out and flied to right.
Interesting how Schilling has pitched him. He stayed away from him with fastball. He struck him out with a forkball, a splitter his first time up. Now he starts him off with a slider. That's the first off-speed pitch he's thrown him to start a count.
We're behind that fastball, 95 miles an hour, the reading in our Jugs gun. 0-2.
Well, not only was that a tough pitch, the pitch was up a little bit. There you see 227 career against Schilling. When Schilling gets that fastball up above the letters, you're not going to do very much with it. Your only hope is to foul it back, as Sandberg did there.
Magadan at second, nobody out. It's 4-0 for the Phillies. Ryan Sandberg with 87 RBIs. Trying to make something happen here, but he's behind in the count, 0-2. Cubs have 5 hits in the game now. A little bit off the corner with the fastball. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Curt Schilling gives Johnny Padres a tremendous amount of the credit for Schilling's development as a pitcher. He said Padres taught him how to pitch and how to learn watching other people pitch. In the dirt. And it is 2-2. He said one day Padres told him, he says, you know, you got a really good curveball. Here's Jim Wright, the Phillies pitching coach. Johnny Padres on leave right now. With some physical ailments. But he said one day, Padres said, you got a great curveball, but you should never throw it to a right-handed hitter. And so Schilling, the next start, went out, said, I'll take his advice. Never threw a curveball, had a shutout going into the 8th inning. Base hit up the middle for Sandberg. Magadan got a late break. Now he's going to be way tall as the ball is bobbled by McGee. And he'll score easily. 4-1 for the Phillies.
Schilling got a 1-2 count. He tried to finish him with a splitter. He couldn't do it. And then he threw him another fastball away. It's a fastball away. Nice hitting here by Sandberg right back through the middle. The runner was stopping at third, but with the bobble, as you mentioned, he gets up and comes on home because you can see Magadan was slowing down. He wasn't going to try to score, but he scores. I don't know how they're going to, well, they'll have to score the base hit. I don't know if they're going to give him an RBI or not. They'll have to wait and see. I guess they did.
Looked to me like Magadan was going to hold up.
Well, he definitely was because you're, well, first of all, you're down by 4 runs. You're not going to, you know, take a chance on getting the runners thrown out the plate. But then again, you don't know if they would have thrown to the plate anyway.
Well, it sounds like they're here in Chicago, though. They're going to give Rhino the RBI in that.
Well, that doesn't surprise you.
The 88th RBI for Sandberg, the 3rd highest RBI total in any season of his career.
I think if you're in any any player in his home park would get that type of a call.
Tyler Houston, the hitter now, behind that fastball, 94 miles an hour it came in. 0-1 on the count. Houston has twice grounded out to second base. Bullpen activity for the Phillies now. And that's off the outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. In the Phillies bullpen, Russ Springer, the right-hander, and Rico Jordan, the left-hander, warming up. Off the bench, and he's pacing now. 1-1 the count to Houston. Nobody out. Check swing. Did he swing? No. Third base umpire Brian Gorman on the appeal, ruling in favor of Houston. 2-1 the count. Ray Sanchez on deck. Cubs with a run finally, but they've got a long way to go. Still down by 3. 4-1 in the 7th. Although I think they feel a little bit better if they could get Schilling out of there. Out of play, 2-2 to Houston. Jim Riggleman, manager of the Cubs, and he gets high praise from his players, Joe, in terms of the fact that everybody plays so hard in this ball club. They play hard and with a lot of heart. And Riggleman gives the credit to the players themselves. Outside.
He said that kind of image was formed by Grace and Sosa last year. He said they really made sure that the players never gave up and always worked hard and played the game hard.
And McCray. I mean,
McCray, I'm sorry.
He pointed it at McCray. There goes the runner, and Houston fouls it back to the screen. Sandberg will go back to first base.
Well, they've cut the deficit to 4-1, and that's a good situation to go ahead and put the runner in motion with a 3-ball and 2-strike count. Sandberg, in the past, has stolen a few bases. He's 11 stolen bases this year, but he's been caught 7 times. Not a good percentage. But in this situation, they were trying to open up a hole.
He's running again. And Houston hits it in the air. Shallow left, Stocker out. Jeffries in. And there's the first out. 1 down and the Cubs 7.
Well, they had the right person covering. Morandini was covering the second baseman, as you see. Houston a little bit upset that he popped the pitch up.
Now instead of Ray Sanchez, Grant Brown will come up to pinch hit here. He has hit well. A few chances he's had, as you see. Only 49 at bats, but 327. And get 4 home runs in only 49 at bats. And I'm just going to guess here that Jim Riggleman will take a shot here. Maybe he'll pop one right now. A little late on that fastball. 0-1 the count. Grant Brown, 25 years of age, from Porterville, California. You know, lives in Porterville, California?
Yes, the voice of the the former voice of the Oakland A's.
Yeah. Monty Moore. There's a radio station down there. Grant Brown then went to Fresno State University. Was a big star there. Helped the school to a 5th place finish in the 1991 College World Series. Second team All-American. And a strike. It is 1-2. Grant Brown, a 3rd-round draft choice in 1992. And in his, as we said, in his few at-bats at the big league level, he has hit. There's Sandberg at first. The Cubs needing some hits right now. Down 4-1. And he chases the high, hard one. Down he goes.
When your pitcher is throwing at 93 and above and you try to chase this pitch up out of the strike zone, you cannot get the bat up there in time. You see he's trying to get up to it. No way you can get up to it. You can hit a low fastball down with a lot of speed, but the high fastball, you just can't get up to it in time.
Another pinch hitter. This is another young Cub, Robin Jennings. This is a guy they're real high on. I think that maybe they'll give him a look next spring to see if he could be a guy who could hit some home runs for them next year. In 86 games at Iowa in AAA ball, he had 18 home runs with a 284 batting average. He got his first major league hit back in April of this year when he was up earlier with the ball club. Ball 1, 1 ball, 1 strike to Robin Jennings. He actually drove in a game-winning run against the Cubs' arch rival, the Cardinals, back in April the 30th against Dennis Eckersley with a pinch hit 9th inning double back in April. He was born in the Republic of Singapore. First person ever born in Singapore to reach the major leagues. Down the right field line, hooking into the corner, foul. 1 ball and 2 strikes now to Jennings. Amaro gave chase there. National League Central, the Cardinals blew a 5-2 8th inning lead at Dodger Stadium to lose today. The Astros were pounded again by the Colorado Rockies. And so the Cubs, with a win tonight, would be 4 games behind the first-place Cardinals going into St. Louis Tuesday for a 3-game series, and only 3 games in the loss column. But they are right now trailing 4-1. Jim Riggleman needs some late-inning miracles here. There is strike 3 on the outside, and Kurt Schilling recovers nicely. 4-1. Jeffries and then Benito Santiago coming up.